Hello, my name is Daniel Robertson, and today I'm going to be presenting my long-term assignment for the Appalachian Literature class. So I started this paper with talking about all the things that us natives to America already know. That, we are a nation that has us divided by states, and our states are very different. However, there are regions that extend beyond state lines. And this is where I used one of the maps that we used in week one. The map that I used was just simply very clear, and it didn't try to divide up too much. It was most likely just the bare bones of what I wanted. And also, next to the map was the description of the area as well, which I also used as a quote, which I also found was really, really good. That needed to be included in case, something wrong happened, like the map didn't load or anything like that. I dived into a lot of the stereotypes that are in the Appalachia, and then I mentioned one that I'm arguing to be true, which is that poverty is all throughout the region. Um, and that's exactly what I get at, is that the Appalachian poverty pursues through changes in the coal mining industry, through the addition of the New Deal, and it extends into current times. And, that's my thesis. So I started off with coal mining, and all of us that are familiar with the class um, are very used to hearing about the troubles of coal mining at this point, 5 weeks into the class. Um, but I used the High Mountains Rising book for a lot of the facts for the coal mining section. Um, I found that really useful. There needed to be some facts to back up the fact that there were some highs. I was sure to include the fact that there were some highs, that coal mining had some really good times where they had a lot of workers, but they also had some bad ones, which of course led to more poverty. Um, and then I dived into strip mining, because that was another one of the many reasons why there were less workers in the coal mining industry, was because with strip mining, didn't need them. And through strip mining, I dived into mountaintop removal, which of course is the most devastating kind of strip mining. Um, this is where I used my sources from Buckley and Baller. Um, they provided some good facts of the destruction and the concerns of some of the mountaintop removal effects. They had some very good arguments. And again, I point out the fact that I used um, quotes that were from, the 1950s and the 1960s, that had it in that time frame. And then also I quoted stuff from 2007 and 1997 as well. So I'm trying to make it clear that there was stuff from back then and there's stuff from closer to now, but not so close to now, like uh, within the 2010s. Um, the new, and then I move on to the New Deal, where I state a lot of facts at the beginning of the section, saying things like that the New Deal took place in 1933 to 1938, that it was done by President Roosevelt, um, that it was in response to the Great Depression. All these things that if you missed the history class that one day, then it's basically updating the the current situation of what this thing. But the big deal was really huge. Like the New Deal was really big for the region, I should say. Um, this is where I used my quotes from Boyd and Wareham. because they uh, they had lots of good facts on some of the organizations that came out of the New Deal. See, even though a lot of these organizations were started because of the New Deal, um, I wanted to make it clear that even though their success happened, it did not happen from 1933 to 1938, that it came later. Um, I continued to dive into things that happened during the New Deal. One of the big things was food stamps. The creation of food stamps was a huge deal for the Appalachians, simply because poverty was everywhere, that food stamps helped people to actually survive. Um, it was not long after that where I dived into the final and arguably the main point of my paper, which is the fact that, we are still, that this region mostly is in poverty. That even though there are some regions around here that are in less poverty, a majority of it is genuine poverty. That it's it's not very good. And this is where I found a great testimonial um, from my Lippmann source, where it is from 2012 that this woman says that there are people who are just like they were in the 1960s. Some of these people don't even have electricity. Um, I don't remember if I included that quote exactly or not, but it was something along those lines. Um, but here is where I included the the main argument was the economic status of the Appalachia, and um, if you can see the map, you could just see a lot of red, and there is some white, but there's also quite a bit of white, but there's also a lot of red as well. And that's a big deal because that's the bottom 10% of the economy is from, that area. I chose this graph over the most recent one simply because this one had its effective date completed by September 30th of last year, whereas the most current map isn't concluded. Like it's an estimation for the year, but the rest of the year is not done, and therefore the map could change. And I didn't want that to be the case. Um, but yeah, this map really drives home the idea that to this day we still have poverty, and that was the main idea of my paper, was to point out that we still have poverty despite how much help we've gotten over the years. It's it's just not that great. Um, And my conclusion just drives it home. I include another quote of the exact areas of the Appalachia, and then I state that the region does still have poverty, and that there's not really a sign of change in the near future. Um, but anyway, thank you for watching, and that's all.